Welcome, friends. I'm Lisa Levenger from Accelerated Literacy Learning, and I am thrilled to say good morning to you and a hearty all for poetry and poetry for all. We have been very busy. It's been almost 3 weeks of studying poetry intensely, and look how much we've accomplished. Let's do a quick review. We have learned so far that poets observe ordinary objects and make them extraordinary with their words and observations. We've also learned that poetry is a wonderful way to explore feelings. We've done that a few times, and in fact, we're going to dig into that a little bit today. We've also talked about how poems have rhythm and form. We've done haiku together. Yesterday, you did shape poetry with Lorraine. We've also done list poems with Susan. And today we're going to explore a form of poetry called ode. We'll talk about that in a little bit. We have talked about how poems paint pictures in our minds. We've talked about how poets use their 5 senses to enrich their poems. Another thing we'll be exploring through odes today is revisiting that idea of using your 5 senses. We've talked about how poems can rhyme. They don't have to rhyme, but they can. It's another tool in your toolkit. Poems can look like a list. And poets use specific techniques to strengthen their poems. And we talked about that a little bit with our metaphor, our simile, and the use of personification, which again we'll revisit in our study of ode today. We have been very busy reading all the poems you've submitted, and just next Friday will be our very last day of meeting with you, and the day we will be announcing the winners of the first annual Accelerated Literacy Learning Contest. So please, poets, submit your original poetry to Susan at acceleratedliteracylearning.com. And on Friday, a week from tomorrow, we'll be announcing the winners, and we're going to be doing a bunch of surprises for you. So join us next Friday as well as we announce those special first annual winners of the poetry contest. Today, we're going to be exploring, like I said, a type of poem called an ode. And odes are a very old form of poetry, and they were used to kind of sing to a person or a thing that the poet loved very deeply. So odes, you'll notice, will have a lot of rhythm in them. I'm going to start off by reading an ode to something that my husband Nelson loves more than anything in the world besides his family, and that's ice cream. So Shantia Brown wrote an ode, and it's called Ode to Ice Cream. When you first start thinking about odes, you think about something you really, really care about and you know a lot about. So while I'm reading the poem Ode to Ice Cream, I'm going to ask you to grab a piece of paper and just begin to keep a list of things in your life that you really love. We'll be doing that together in a few minutes, but you might want to start just that process of beginning to gather in your mind things that you really love, things and people. Shantia Brown writes about ice cream. Ode to Ice Cream. Oh, ice cream, on a sunny day, you keep me cool, like jumping in the swimming pool. You drip on the sidewalk and even on my flip-flop. Oh, ice cream, I like you blended with milk in a shake, or eating you with a cake, and even more with Oreos in you. Oh, ice cream, you are delicious. So Shantia Brown found something that she really loves and really knows a lot about. Consider a very different poem, and this poem is by someone named Katie Mathos. It's called Grandmother. She writes an ode to her grandmother, and she calls her Yaya. So in the first line, you're going to hear the word Yaya, and Yaya is the Greek word for grandma. Oh, Yaya, I miss you. I know I never enjoyed our Sunday lunches with you inside the dining room. Not out in the sun. You were old, I was young. I never talked to you unless I was forced, but I didn't know how much I loved you. Now you are gone. I miss our lunches, the dining room is empty, the chairs pushed in tight, and the maid has left. So have you, and I wish you'd come back because I miss you. Katie Mathos. So in this ode that Katie writes to her grandma, she writes some very specific details about how much she loves her and why. So in both of these poems, the poet chose a topic about something they really, really loved, and they explored it using beautiful language, using an unusual and extraordinary way of being very specific about the thing they loved. When you write an ode, you think about the things you love the most, and I thought I would share with you my process of how I pick what I'm going to write an ode about. So I'm going to start off by making a list of things that I really love, and of course at the top of my list will be my family. So we will, okay. So my ode list looks like this, odes, okay? So I write the word odes on the very top, and then I'm going to explore them a little bit more by writing things I really care about. So of course I'm going to write my family, but I really want to be specific about my ode. So maybe I'll write about how every year we host Thanksgiving and we exchange presents. So I might start going off on my list and making mini lists about what makes it so special. And then I'm going to add to that, I do love, my friends. And again, I might be specific in writing about a specific part of my friendship or a specific person. So I'm going to write apple picking. So every year I host an apple picking party where some of my friends who used to live in New York City gather. We were all teachers, and we pick apples in the morning, and then we bake for the whole afternoon, and it smells incredible in the house. And we started this tradition when it was just us and we were teachers, and since then we've gotten married and we have kids, so this tradition has grown and grown and grown. So I might write an ode to apple picking, calling upon those memories. I'm also thinking about how I really do love lipstick. So just as I was getting ready for this session with you today, I went through, did I feel like wearing my pink lipstick, my sheer lipstick, my bright red lipstick. So I do have a passion for lipstick. And I'm also thinking about this morning, it's a little chilly and we do have our power back, but I'm thinking about how I do love tea. And it's part of my morning ritual every morning to have like a really hot cup of tea on a cold day, or a tall glass of iced tea on a cold day, on a summer day. So I'm gonna write tea. So I started my list of things that I care a lot about, and then that's how you're going to begin the process of thinking about what you want to write your ode to. So for today, I think I'm going to actually start off with tea. I'm feeling tea is something that would be, I care a lot about, I know a lot about, I think a lot about. So I love tea so much, actually not joking about my love for tea, I actually have a tea box with me today. So if you're able to think about what you want to write your ode about, you might want to actually really explore that object very intensely and see if you can begin the process of what makes it so special. So with our tea, I'm actually going to start off by taking out some of my teas and making some noticings about them. So one of the things I noticed about my tea is that it can come in different kinds of containers. So sometimes containers look like they're tall, and sometimes they look like they're square. So I think I'll start my noticings by writing square boxes, tall cylinders. I also might notice, if I use my five senses, that teas have very distinct smells. So I think I'll open up my tea boxes. This is my box of chai. It's very spicy. So I'm going to write spicy. There's also, this one's a raspberry lime green tea. So this has a very earthy smell. Digging into my box some more. This is a really special kind. It's apple and berry, so there's a fruity smell to it too. So I'm going to write down fruity. So you'll notice that what I've done is use one of my five senses, a sense of smell, and also the sense of sight to kind of describe the tea as I get ready to write my ode to tea. I also noticed that in my tea box, I have one of my favorite objects, and this is probably why I love tea so much, is I love to put honey with my tea. This is a honey spoon. So my favorite cups of tea are like with milk and honey. So I'll add some of those descriptions to what makes my tea so special to me. Now, one of the things I shared with you about odes is that they're lyrical. They have a real rhythm to them. And part of the reason is because they always have a repetitive phrase in them. If we look at the poem Ode to Ice Cream, you'll notice that she starts off by saying, "Oh, ice cream," and she repeats that line again, "Oh, ice cream." You're going to want to do the same thing in your ode. When you write your own ode, you'll notice that you'll start by paying tribute and showing oodles of gratitude towards that object by actually repeating that object's name over and over. Yeah, when she wrote the poem about Yaya, she wrote "Oh Yaya" several times. And same with this poem by Shantia Brown. She writes "Oh ice cream, oh ice cream." She also is very specific about how she speaks to this poem. She actually speaks directly to the poem. That's another quality that makes an ode unique. You're speaking directly to the object. So when I write my poem about tea, I'm actually going to write right to the tea. I'm not going to say anything but speak directly to the tea. Another quality of an ode is that it has a line that repeats itself often. So not only is there "Oh ice cream," you'll notice that she says that 3 times to the poem. And she even points out that it's delicious. She speaks right to the poem and she says, "You are delicious." But one thing that I recommend is that you pick one phrase that you really like and you repeat it throughout your ode. So one thing that I know about tea is that I love tea when it's hot and I love tea when it's cold. So I think one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that in my ode I incorporate these words hot and cold. You always soothe me. So it becomes almost like a chorus throughout the ode. Okay, so here are the things that make an ode very distinct. And I want you to be able to start writing your ode during our time together. This is actually the last time during our ALL celebration to poetry that we'll be creating our own original poems. So I want you to think about what you need to do to write your ode. So step 1 is pick something you really, really love and know a lot about. Give your subject oodles of gratitude by starting off with, "Oh, how I love you," and explain why. Speak to your subject directly, pull out beautiful language, and make your subject really, really unique and special. You might even want to throw in some personification and use repeated lines. Let's do this together. I'm going to start off with, of course, my poetry paper, and I will write my poem called Ode to Tea. Ode to Tea. Of course, I'm grabbing my favorite pink poetry marker. Ode to Tea. Your smells. Remember, I started off by smelling, and I wrote some specific words. Your smells spicy, earthy, fruity, always soothing, hot or cold. Always soothing, hot or cold are going to become my chorus. They're going to be the repeated lines I use throughout my ode. O tea, you patiently sit. Now I'm personifying. Can tea really sit? No. I'm using the technique of personification to add a little bit of a different twist on how I view tea. That's what an ode is so special in its ability to take something and elevate it and change the way we view it, and personification is a wonderful tool for doing this. Oh, you sit patiently as I gather my thoughts for the day. Time to repeat that chorus, always soothing, hot or cold. I go back to OT. OT. You require patience. Again, I'm speaking directly to the T. And I'm personifying. Does T really have patience? No, it's a human quality that we're adding. And in return, you give me time to sit and reflect. Back to that repetitive line, always soothing, hot or cold. Time for our last piece of our ode. OT. You hug me. Can a T really hug you? No, I'm personifying yet again. From my throat to my belly. Always soothing, hot or cold. Throughout my ode, you'll notice I've used my 5 senses. I've spoken directly to the T. I've used the poetry technique of personification. And I've made it really clear that I love T so much. So, poets, for today, I'm going to remind you. You're going to pick something you really, really love and show up by loving it with lots of details. Give your subject oodles of gratitude by repeating, oh, whatever that object you choose. Speak to your subject directly. Pull out beautiful language, sprinkle it throughout your poem to make that really special feeling you have towards that object very clear. Throw in some personification and use repeated lines. I hope that you've learned a lot about ode today. This will be our last opportunity to create a unique poem. Moving from tomorrow towards next Thursday, we'll be doing revision and editing. And next Friday is our final celebration of our first annual poetry contest. And we're really, really looking forward to reading all of your submissions. So I am going to send you off to write your odes. I'm going to grab my hot cup of tea and wish you a wonderful day, and thank you so much for coming. I also want to wish you lots of opportunities for slowing down and finding things that are meaningful to you to write about. So, be safe, be kind, and be hopeful. Cheers. Have a great day. Bye.